Tapper was initially developed by Marvin Glass & Associates for the arcades and released by Bally Midway in 1983. The arcade cabinet can be played by up to 2 players. It's a simple concept. You play as a bartender scrambling to serve patrons at the local pub. Interestingly, the controls in the arcade version actually mimicked a keg tapper where you had to fill up the beer glasses and even had Budweiser featured prominently in the game and all along the cabinet. Tapper was later ported to various home systems by US Gold and published by Sega. The Atari 2600 port is actually fairly well done. They even managed to get in all 4 stages, and we'll get to that in a bit. Okay, so here's how Tapper works. You play as Sam Malone, or whoever. This is your bartender role-playing fantasy, so you pick whoever you want. You move your character from bar to bar and fire beers at customers by pressing the button. Keep tossing beers at the patrons until they're all off-screen in order to win the stage and move on to the next level. Well, actually they played it safe and changed the beers to sodas for the home version, but we all know they're beers, so for the purposes of the rest of this video, I'm going to refer to them as such. You can move up and down between the bars using the joystick, and also the patrons will occasionally throw the beer glasses back at you, in which case you can move forward along the bar to catch the glass. If a beer hits the floor, you die. If the patrons make it to the edge of the bar before you serve them beer, you die. And if the patrons toss a glass of beer back at you and it lands on the floor before you catch it, you guessed it, you die. The controls are a bit tricky because you can only throw 2 beers at once on the same bar. However, if you press the button to throw a 3rd beer, it will wait until the first 2 patrons catch their beers and are off screen, and then throw the 3rd beer anyway. That's not how it was in the arcades, and it can throw your timing off just a bit. However, if you realize you accidentally pressed the button one too many times, you can quickly move the bartender up or down to another row before the 3rd beer gets thrown to circumvent throwing too many beers at once. Once you clear out all the rows, some girls start dancing a jig in the background, and then it's on to the next level. All of the levels from the arcade made it into the port. An Old West saloon, a jock bar, a punk rock bar, and even a space bar filled with aliens. They also threw in the bonus stage, complete with a Mountain Dew logo in the background instead of Budweiser. This is kind of like a variation of the Shell game where this Hamburglar-looking dude shakes up all but one soda and then switches them around, and you have to pick the one that didn't get shaken up. Pick the right one and you get extra points, but guess wrong and you get sprayed in the face. Thankfully, it's just a bonus stage though, so you don't lose any lives if you guess wrong. You get up to 5 lives depending on how you align the difficulty switches, and you'll probably need them because, like any Atari game, the difficulty spirals off the rails in the later rounds. I'll confess, I didn't have this game as a kid and only really had a chance to spend any time with it recently. I played it at a local arcade a few years back. It's a simple but addictive concept, and I have to say that the Atari 2600 version is about as well done as you could hope for. The details on the keg tappers, the patrons, and really all of the characters are pretty dang good. There's even music that plays in the background. It plays Oh Susanna, which kind of puts you in the mood to go hang out at an old-timey saloon, even if it gets old after a while. If you're collecting Atari games, this one will set you back though. It tends to go for over 40 bucks or so as a loose cartridge, and even more if you want it with the manual and the box. I'm not really sure what the reasoning is for the higher prices on this one though, so if anyone knows, I'd love to hear about it. The only thing that bothered me about this game was not being able to toss more than 2 beers at a time in a single row. It just took a while for my brain to wrap itself around that fact. But really though, the key to this game seems to be to just throw 1 beer at a time on any row and always keep moving. If you throw too many beers at once, they'll start tossing them back, and that's where you get yourself into trouble. There will be too many glasses coming back at once, and once that starts to happen, you'll never keep up before one of them eventually crashes to the floor and you have to start the level over again. You can take advantage of the fact that if you've moved forward along the bar to collect a beer, you can just press up or down to kind of teleport to the next row. You can also teleport from the top to the bottom row if you keep pressing in the same direction. In the later rounds, when the patrons are getting stacked 2 to 3 to a row, I kept wanting to stand in one spot and take them all out in a single row before moving on to the next, but that's really not the best way to do it. You're better off just throwing 1 beer per row at a time and just keep moving. Otherwise, you'll throw too many beers at once and they'll start hucking the beers back at you. At least, that's what worked for me. What are some of your strategies for playing this one? Overall, it's a really good arcade port on the Atari 2600, although I'm not sure if the higher price is justified unless you're just a rabid Atari 2600 fan. What did you think of this one? Did you play Tapper in the arcades or on any of the home systems? If so, I'd love to hear your memories from this one. As always, thank you for watching. Please don't text and drive, and I'll see you next time on Friday Night Arcade.